Hey guys, it's Homestead Dad here again. I wanted to give you a little backstory on how we got to where we are now. So my wife and I both grew up in suburbs of Detroit, very affluent suburbs, and the most we had for animals, I had a couple fish, we had a dog growing up. I'm not sure my wife even had that. So we met at college, and at that point, living on a homestead, I don't think had ever really crossed either of our minds. My wife went to medical school. We got married after college. She went to medical school. And I think that's the point at which we started thinking about it. We bought a house, and she was in residency. And that was the point at which I was more interested in trying to provide more of our own food and own resources rather than having to go and buy them. We lived on a little postage stamp lot just outside of Detroit, and I think we had a 40-foot by 120-foot lot, and I had 3 chickens on the back of our garage in a 4-foot by 8-foot pen and coop. And so that was the start of it. We started having chickens and got our own eggs and had a little garden. And then when we moved from there, we moved farther out away from Detroit. We moved to a nice suburb in a great subdivision. It was a golf course subdivision. It was beautiful, had a great house. It was, very nice. I think it was a 3,200 square foot home. I never really thought I'd have a house like that. Growing up, I never thought I'd own a house that nice. And we lived there for, I think it was 4 years. And the problem with that house was we couldn't even have chickens. We couldn't have chickens. It was golf course subdivision. Of course they're not going to let you have chickens. We probably could have gotten away with rabbits in the backyard. But it was at that point that we started thinking about, okay, this is a great subdivision, but when we look out our windows, we're, this far away from our neighbors. And we had great neighbors, don't get me wrong, but we wanted more privacy. So we started looking further west away from Detroit and, kind of north of Ann Arbor. And we were looking for property, we were looking at houses, and I think when we first started looking for property, my dad had said, well, why don't you buy our property from us? And my parents had bought 18 and a half acres, and this is probably now 11 years ago. And my dad and I would come out here and hunt, and we started planting trees. We planted, I think the first year that we planted out here, we planted 750 spruce trees and pine trees. And, he said, well, why don't you, take this property, buy this property from us. And we, for whatever reason, I don't even know what the reason was. We were like, we're looking for something different. We looked at multiple houses in multiple different locations and just weren't finding anything that looked like it was going to work for us. So I think we were stopping here on the way out to my parents' cottage because we needed to get something from the pole barn, this pole barn that I'm sitting in right now. And I had come into the barn, grabbed I think it was like something for the water for the lake, and got back in the car, and my wife said to me, why don't we just buy this property? I said, okay. So then we started the process, and that was in the summer, and it must have been 3 years ago now. Yeah, or 3.5 years ago. We started the process at that point, and what we ended up doing was we found a place that sells used mobile homes in Grand Rapids. And we found a home that we liked, and we coordinated it with them. My dad and I ran all the power. We ran the power, the gas, the water from the pole barn to where it was going to need to connect into the house. And we did that, most of it, over the winter. So it got pretty cold. But by the next spring, we had everything done. They had delivered the house in the fall, and we had started getting everything connected. And I painted, the inside of the whole house, every room in the house, including the ceilings. And we moved out here. The pole barn the house is about 2,300 square feet. It's got 4 bedrooms and 3 baths. And we've got the pole barn. So we didn't put it on a basement. We put it on a slab because eventually we're thinking that we might like to build our, forever home at some point on some part of the property. But we've lived here now for 2.5 years. In the first year, we got chickens and sheep. And then we added cows the following year. We did some steer calves. And then last year we bought a cow that was bred, And Bullseye, who we have out in the pasture right now for beef, was her calf. And then this past fall we bought the Jersey cow for milking. And this summer we bought 4 American guinea hogs. And the last 2 years we've done turkeys. So that's where we are. And we've planted fruit trees and nut trees and strawberries and raspberries, and we've tried blueberries to some degree, and asparagus, and done a garden. And hopefully this summer we'll be able to get a high tunnel and do some more fruit trees. But that's where we are right now. I just wanted to give you guys kind of the backstory on how we came from 2 high school kids in the suburbs of Detroit, living in subdivisions, never having animals, to living on 18.5 acres and having cows and sheep and chickens and pigs and doing turkeys and all that kind of stuff. And I would not change any of it, no matter how much work it is, and getting up in the morning is not my thing, to milk, but I wouldn't change any of it for anything in the world. The kids love being out here. They love having the animals. And, I tell people all the time, I'm living the dream. So if you have any questions about the story, about our lives and how we got to where we are, please leave them in the comments, and I would be happy to answer them. We'll see you guys next time.